What's up, everybody? This is Talkin All That Kazz, and I am DJ Kazzeo. I want to thank you for checking out this particular episode of Talkin All That Kazz. On this particular episode, I got another great interview that I conducted here on my radio show at 90.9 FM KHCC in Salinas, California. But before we get going with that, I want you to go to this address, djkazzeo.com, and connect with me on social media. Whether it's on my Facebook, on my Instagram, on my Twitter, or even if you go and subscribe to my Mixcloud channel, you can hear all my radio shows that I do in their entirety, music, commentary, and interviews. But this right here, Talkin All That Kazz, this is for just the interviews, okay? I want to thank everybody who checked out the first round of interviews that I put up. Now we're on to the second round. This particular round, I'm going to focus on 2019, but I'm going to sprinkle it in with some more current stuff too. So you never know what you're going to get. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy another edition of Talkin All That Kazz with me, DJ Kazzeo.
That's right, man. We back in the place right here. It's 90.9 FM KHCC Radio Bilingue. Yours truly, Kazzeo.
And V-Dog.
And we got a very special guest joining us right about now. I've been looking forward to this for a long time because after 35 years, I can finally say, yo, Kangol.
Yeah, what's up, man?
What's going on, man?
Stay on you, bro.
Kangol Kid from U.T.F.O, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for having me, man. How you guys doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you, and thanks for calling in, man. Pioneer of hip hop, right here. You know, representing. Thank you so much.
I promised, man. I try to be a man of my word. I did promise.
Man, it's a beautiful thing, man. You know, we've been coordinating this for like 3 weeks or some now, and you know, all the ducks lined up, all the planets aligned, so we're good to go, man.
Yes, sir.
You know, so let's go back to. I know you're gonna probably say, "Oh man, not this question again," but I gotta know. You know, U.T.F.O, before you guys came out, you guys were dancers for Houdini. How exactly did you guys hook up with Houdini? How'd that connection happen?
That was a contest at Radio City Music Hall. It was a rap and breakdance contest. My group was the only group that came in the preliminaries for both. We came in first place for dancing, and we came in second place for rapping in the preliminaries. And the championship was held at Radio City Music Hall, in which we came in first place for dancing again, and second place for rapping again. This time we were beat out by the Fat Boys, and that's how they got their record deal. And in the audience were the members of Houdini that loved the way we did what we did. They approached our managers and said, you know, we'd love to have these kids come out on the road with us. And it was that instant. Before you know it, we were on a European tour everywhere, Switzerland, Germany, you name it, just places that I read in my history book. Here I am now actually in these countries, in these cities, you know, breakdancing for Houdini, man. So it was instantaneous.
Well, you know, you mentioned that it was a contest where the Fat Boys beat you out. Now, was that kind of the catalyst or the
I know exactly where you're going.
The origin for the plot line of Crush Groove?
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely that.
Oh, see, I knew I was being real predictable with that. But you know, so this was what, about 83 then? 82, 83?
This is 83, yeah. It's about 83.
Okay. So then you guys are on tour with Houdini. When did you guys decide to actually start making a record, recording and making a record?
Well, we were rappers as breakdancers. We did both. And so while we were on tour with Houdini, our managers and producers were Steve Salem and Full Force. And we had already recorded our demo tapes. And so while we were on tour, they were shopping, you know, our stuff. So being, you know, the main dancers or the sidekick to Houdini, that of course played a role in helping us get our deal because we were already, you know, making a name for ourselves. We were actually the first dancers ever for a rap group. So after Houdini hired the two of us as their dancers, every rap group had to have at least 2 dancers in their group.
Right. Right.
So,
Nice.
so we opened the door for that standard.
So then about late '83, early '84, you guys signed with Select Records, right?
And that is correct. And we recorded our first single, Beats and Rhymes.
Right. Now,
And,
no, I was going to say, around that same time, Full Force is making a name for themselves.
Yes.
Lisa,
as producers.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. They'd worked previously with Curtis Blow.
Curtis Blow. Yeah.
So they I guess basically bring Lisa to Columbia.
Yeah, that was after our success, of course.
Right. Well, yeah, because the Lisa record came out at the end of '84, right?
That's about right, I guess. Yeah.
So was there any thought on your guys' part, hey, you have connections at Columbia, can you get us over there as opposed to being on Select?
No. The Columbia contacts took place pretty much after the success of the Select, success.
Right. But what I'm saying is that they had that bridge to Columbia. Was there ever any talk of you guys jumping from Select to Columbia?
No,
or
because we signed a deal, a lengthy deal, I guess, at that time. So there was no jumping ship. We had to, complete our commitment.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you know how the music business is. There's politics involved. You can get around that.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen clearly.
But so Beats, like you said, Beats and Rhymes comes out, and then the monster hit, Roxanne hits.
That is correct.
And
that was a fluke. That was a fluke. That was not calculated at all. What took place is the second single was supposed to be Hanging Out. We spent 3 weeks in the studio working on Hanging Out. We gave it a little bit of everything, a melodic hook, and we calculated the structure of how the whole thing was going to go down. And after the 3 weeks, we presented it to the label. The label loved it and said, okay, can I get something for the B-side?
Mm-hmm.
And for those listening that doesn't know what a B-side is, it's the other side of that vinyl plate.
Which is usually the better song.
Well, in our case, it turned out to be. We, after spending 3 weeks on Hanging Out, we spent 3 days on Roxanne, because we just wanted to hurry up and satisfy the label, give them something. The idea came from B Fine of Full Force, and he's the one who said, since we don't, because we were tapped out of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So he said to us, all right, let's do a song about a girl named Roxanne. And we said, okay, why Roxanne? And he said, I like the name. I'm like, all right, fine, you like the name. What do you want us to write about? And he says, all right, Kang, I want you to write about how you try to kick it to this chick, and no matter how hard you try, you can't get her. And then E, I want you to do the same thing, and then you don't get her either. And then Doc, I want you to do the same, but at the end of the song, you get her.
Right.
And I said, hold on. Why you got to get her? Why he got to get her? And so B-Fine said, fine, all right, nobody gets it. And so we all went home and put our verses together, and we did it with the quickness. I mean, the beat that I rapped on, I programmed my own beat, and to show how much Full Force even cared about this, because they were on-hands production team, they were like, okay, whatever beat you want to put together, you rap off your own beat. So all right, fine. So I programmed my first beat, as you hear on the song, boom, but that was my first program ever.
Right.
And we put the record together quickly just to shut the label up, just to go, all right, man, here's the song. Can you put Hanging Out already, please? And when he released it, every popular DJ, Mr. Magic, Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, everyone said, nah, it's the B-side, man. This is the hit here. And everyone gravitated to that, and the fluke began.
Well, a couple questions about that before we keep going. When you're putting that together, obviously the Billy Squier beat had been commonly used as for backspinning and people just live rhyming over.
Sure.
Was there any hesitation on your part to actually take it and sample it the way you did?
No. Well, let me say this. I believe, unless somebody wants to challenge me on this, I believe that is the first sample ever on a rap song. Because the way that was done is, again, B Fine said whatever beats we wanted to rap off of. So he allowed us each to have a different beat for our verse. So I programmed mine. Educated Rapper wanted big beat. And so Howie T had a unit called the Sample-matic or something it was called, and it was only able to sample 1 second. So with that 1 second, we recreated big beat.
Right.
You know, so he took the bass drum, then he took the snare, then he took the hi-hat, and we recreated it to be what it is. So in terms of samplers, you know, back then samplers gave you X amount of seconds that you can do what you need to do. And with this, we only had 1 second to work with and recreated big beat on there. So I believe that's the first sample ever. Because even Rapper's Delight was, you know, a version of Chic's Good Times.
Yeah,
but, but a band played that over.
Right, or or they were just going over the instrumental, yeah.
Right. No, a band played that over. That was redone. And so that wasn't a sample, though we know that came from Chic. This came from Big Beat, but it was a sample.
See, that's interesting. That's interesting to me because I'd always thought that you just looped it. So you're saying you just took the sounds and replayed.
That is correct.
Oh wow,
that's crazy, man.
That
had to be a lot of work back then. Like that was
really.
Probably a time consumption.
It really was. But you know, Howie T was, you know, and is a genius. So he coming up with the idea to do it this way was just incredible. So, you know, again, we didn't play the record onto the 24 track to do it. It was sampled. It was programmed into it. Therefore, we can change the tempo if we wanted to. It was done that way before samplers were actually created to do what it does.
Right. So, you know, you said you just wanted to put something together quick to shut the label up. Now, as you guys are in there and you're recording it, and when you finally finish, do you have any thought in your mind like, we just created magic?
Hell no. Hell no. In fact, one of the things that irked me was that sound in between Roxanne. You know, the bam, bam, that hit. When we originally did it, the hit wasn't there. And then they decided, you know, Full Force and so on decided, hey, let's put this hit in there. And I didn't like the hit. I was like, that's whack. What's that about? And it was Full Force and the engineers, they collectively came up with that sound to make that happen. And the engineer described it as white noise. And I was annoyed. I was like, white noise, man, this is a black record, man. What are we adding white noise to it for?
Well, so, I kind of see it as a way to differentiate from the chorus to the verse.
Whatever it was, I was not a fan.
Right.
And so I didn't care because it was the B-side. My attitude was no one's gonna hear this anyway, so whatever. You guys decide, fine.
Right.
You know, so to address your question on did we feel it was magic? No, absolutely not.
Okay. Well, I have one question, and I know it's probably another predictable part on my end here. What was your thought when it blew up the way it did? Like, what were you thinking? Were you like, oh, man, this is cool? Like, all right, I'll go with it? Or were you, like, resentful?
No, I was shocked. And, of course, I went with it because the goal is to have a hit record by any means. And so we had a hit record. And I was shocked. And I'll tell you what really shocked me when I realized, wow, we really have a monster in our hands, is one day I heard it on the radio, you know, as it was becoming a hit, and the air personality said, this record's got so much requests that we got to play it again. And he played it again, and that's never been done. And so I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this. Like, you got to be kidding me. Did this DJ just play this song back to back? You know,
that's pretty awesome.
That's when I realized, wow, we got a monster here.
Well, that summer of '84, I mean, it was definitely ruling, you know, regions to regions to regions. I mean, it was such a monster. It was like a wildfire.
Actually, let me address this. It came out in October of '84, so it rocked all the way from the end of '84 through '85.
I could have swore it was in the summer, but I'll take your word. You would know better than I would.
Yeah, man. October of '84 is when it was released.
So when it starts spreading like wildfire, did you ever think that there would be so many answer records?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It went from being a monster hit to being a hip hop phenomenon.
Absolutely, man. So as you're traveling around, and because a lot of different markets had their own answer records from different people. I know, there was a couple from Miami, there was a couple from the West Coast,
Oh, yeah.
All these places. So when you're touring around the country and doing shows, do you ever link up with some of these people that put out these answer records?
Yeah. They actually approach us, and let us know, because some did make it to the mainstream and some never saw the light of day. But they still existed, of course. One that didn't see the light of day was NWA, and I remember Ice Cube was telling me that they had a version called Rock Man, about selling rock.
Wow! I never had heard that story, and
so everyone had theirs.
And it's interesting because if you think about it,
dope, man.
Obviously you had Run DMC, but you guys, U.T.F.O, were the ones who were the kind of the first ones to use an actual acronym for a title of a group. The next ones I can really think of would be like NWA, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there was some before us. I just can't think of them right now. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I want to believe that there had to be, one or two before us.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's I'd have to like go back and look through my library to like really like pin it down, but just off the top of my head, it almost seems like it went from you guys to them.
Yeah, that's a great question. I got to think about that.
So with obviously, as we were saying, the success of Roxanne, I mean that record, I mean, obviously it took you all around the country. What other parts of the globe did it take you to?
We did hit Europe. I remember us in England. There was a television show that we went out there to perform in, or some award show or something. That was pretty much it in terms of out of the country for us. I mean, in terms of being fully out of the country, it was Houdini that took us worldwide, in terms of performances. Though the song, of course, is a worldwide, hit, we did not travel on a world tour. So, like I said, the closest I believe we came to that was going overseas to England.
Would that be something that, being that you weren't, even though you, as you said, you had this worldwide hit, but you're still not making shows in different parts of the world, is that something that kind of leads to the frustrations with Select?
I don't know if I can get on them so much about that. What I will say is we were still very early, so there were still people catching up to what was taking place. And I'm sure some of these countries got turned on to it, after it dissipated in the U.S. And, I really couldn't pinpoint on what that was. I wouldn't say it was the label. That could have been agencies, that could have been management, that could have been anything, to be honest, because we were active. So, maybe it would have clashed with our U.S. schedule, and that's why we didn't go overseas for whatever reason. There could have been several reasons on why that didn't happen.
That's a good point right there. That's a real good point. What was your favorite market to go and visit when you were doing the promotion for that record?
I enjoyed the West Coast.
Wow.
West Coast really did it for me because that was almost like the market that you would think you wouldn't break in terms of hip hop in that early day.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, because we were doing down south with no problem. Of course, East Coast we had on lock. So when we started to hit those markets and we were actually performing with Egyptian Lover and NWA and Too Short and who else? There was a few other
Ice-T.
Yeah, exactly. Ice-T, we did a lot of shows with them as well. So when we started to really lock in that West Coast market, it really made me feel like, wow, we've made it. Like we've conquered the U.S.
Wow.
Definitely,
Like,
man. Definitely. So, you know, out of all the answer records to, you know, the Roxanne, aside from like the real Roxanne and Roxanne Shante, what was your favorite answer record? And who was the guy? Who was the group?
Roxanne's a man.
Okay, by Ralph Rowley, right?
Ralph Rowe. And what's crazy about that, just to show you how life works, he later became the A&R for Jive Records. And when we left Select and went to Jive, he was our A&R director. How crazy is it?
Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Full circle.
You know, I mean, it's a big world and it's also a small world.
Yep.
True.
You know,
so that single got him into the business.
Right. So the second album comes out, the Skeezer Pleaser album.
Right.
What are your memories of that time?
I wasn't involved with that album as much as I would have liked to be. What was going on with that album is I had the success of Whistle with We're Only Bugging.
Right.
And we were working on their next album. After that single, it made sense that we put an album together immediately. So I was kind of separating my time between the Skeezer Pleaser album and the Whistle album. And Educated Rapper was out of the group during that time. He had personal issues that he needed to take care of, and so that just left me and Doc to do all the writing. And so while I'm splitting my time between that album and Whistle's album, Doc was working more with full force on that project. And my contribution really to that album was split personality. That was my idea. And Doc, of course, made that single what it is with his 5 personalities.
That was a great video. I remember seeing it on the afternoon video shows when I'd come home from school. And I love that video.
Yep.
You
So that's my real memory of that album. It was, I was splitting my time in terms of creativity between 2 projects that I had to deliver.
Right. And then after that, we move on to the third album, Lethal.
By that time, we got it all together.
Right.
There was no splitting the time. Educated Rapper was back in the group, and that became our biggest album ever. It was the number 1 rap album in the country. It was, unfortunately, the number 2 album on the charts, on the black charts, for 2 reasons. One, Michael Jackson was number 1, so there is no way we would beat him on the charts. That's impossible, in those days anyway. And the other reason is because Billboard did not have a rap chart at that time.
Right.
No such thing existed. So we were on it wasn't even called the R&B charts. It was called the Black chart.
Yeah, exactly.
And we shared that chart with Stevie Wonder, OJ's, and any other big name you can think of. And on that chart, we were number 2 with the Lethal album, and Michael Jackson was number 1 with Bad.
Right.
So that was our biggest album to date.
So that, interestingly though, to me, that being your biggest album, it also seems like that was kind of the end of the line, right?
Yeah, I agree, because shortly after that, Doc left the group.
Mm-hmm.
And, the group was basically trying to reinvent itself. What else? The sound of hip-hop had changed.
Oh, yeah.
We were getting into the 90s now.
Right.
And, the climate, everything in hip-hop had changed. So right after that, we were trying to find ourselves on how do we fit in. 2 Live Crew was doing their thing with their raunchy, hip-hop Miami sound. And so we were basically trying to feel it out now. Okay, how do we fit in now? With losing a member and recreating, the sound. So yeah, I would say that was the peak. Lethal was U.T.F.O's peak, I would say.
All right. Yeah, and I wonder with the climate change, with everything that's gone on. I mean, I've heard you guys get referenced plenty of times, which is great. I just want to say, for me, I'm younger, so being 36 years old when you guys were out, I was like I was like 3 or 4 years old. I felt bad
he
about it.
He was a baby. He was a baby.
Oh yeah, I mean, I first heard about you guys when I was reading the Source 100th issue because I was like I was just trying to educate myself with hip hop, and I'd hear you guys come up a lot. But I really feel like you guys, by that time, I was into hip hop, 90s, mid to late 90s. I feel like U.T.F.O wasn't played enough. Like you always heard Houdini, and then I was just like U.T.F.O. I'm like, what? And then obviously I've heard you guys now, Roxanne, and
Sure.
Split Personality, and great stuff. But my main question is, how do you feel about the climate change? I mean, I to me, there's a double-edged sword. Everything being digital now, commercial rap's never really, other than maybe when hip hop was emerging in the '80s. But once it got to the 90s, mid to late, I was like, oh, man. And I always kind of stuck with underground. But how do you feel about that?
I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. There are times that, if I wanted to be upset with anyone, I'd be upset with my parents because I can say they probably had me too early. Because if and that's a dumb gripe to have.
Yeah, I hear you.
So of course I'm blessed to be one of the first because one thing that exists when it comes to being the first is anyone can be the best at something. Every year there's going to be another best.
Right.
And when it comes to the Olympics, when it comes to a hit record or whatever, every year you'll have the best so and so, but you can only have the first once.
That's
and
true.
So I'm honored to be that thing that will never change. You know what I mean? The first in so many things in hip hop. The first rap breakdance group. Let's see, the first to challenge Michael Jackson on the charts, as I said. In terms of just culture, my family was born and raised in Haiti, and I was born in America, in New York City, but I'm, of course, hip-hop's first Haitian-American artist.
There you go.
There's just so many firsts that we've taken a role in, even with our success with Fairy Tale Lover.
Right,
Fairy Tale Lover
right.
was an R&B song from a rap group, and we're the first to have an R&B song chart. You got Drake singing on every song now, but we did that way before Drake was probably born. You know what I mean?
And you can't knock that because if you look at it, I mean, Big Daddy Kane's first album, he had a song in there where he was singing. So you guys set the floor for him.
Right. I mean, one of the most successful ballads in hip hop was LL with "I Need Love."
Yes.
But he wasn't singing.
No, he wasn't singing.
But it was a hip hop ballad.
Yeah.
So in terms of being a hip hop group doing a ballad, so we were definitely one of the first to do that. So I have my mixed emotions on, when you address how do I feel about certain things now in terms of the climate or today and technology and so on. I would be a hypocrite if I addressed it with total negativity because my parents didn't understand what I was doing.
Right.
Very true.
So how dare I expect to understand what these kids are doing? We're not supposed to understand this. We had ours, and today they have theirs. So to have any gripes, with that is just, I don't know, immature and, just it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth a little bit, but I'm honored to do what I've done. It took for cats like me to get robbed, for these cats today to get paid.
That's true. You definitely paid your dues.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So a couple quick questions before we let you go. What is the relationship now between yourself, Doc Ice, and Mixmaster Ice?
I would say the most honest answer is we outgrew each other. Doc went on he was the first to leave and started his solo career. And later on, joined forces with Houdini again and started going out on the road with them. I went into the world of songwriting and producing and worked with Lisa and Cheryl Pepsi Riley, Full Force, a bunch of other acts, 3LW, Black, Left Eye Lopez's group,
Right,
Black.
right.
and jingles and, that whole thing. So I transitioned into that.
Staying busy.
Yes, no complaints. And so the other, Mixmaster went his way. He moved from New York to Columbus, Ohio. Educated Rapper went back to school, and so on. So everyone just went their own way, and just finding your way back. It has appeared to be difficult. No lack of trying on my end, but it is what it is. And unfortunately, last year we lost Educated Rapper.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that was going to be the next question. Was how exactly did that affect you, being that you guys reached such success together, and then to lose a brother like that?
It was an incredible thing because he and I hadn't spoken many, many, many years, and he kept his illness a secret from us. He had cancer, and no one knew. And his closest member out of all of us was Mixmaster Ice, and not even Mixmaster knew of his illness.
Right.
So when he did find out, he found out from one of Educated Rapper's family members that reached out to Mixmaster on Facebook, and Ice reached out to E and couldn't get a response from him, and decided to fly in to see what the deal was. And when he flew in, he saw, our brother in his last days, and reached out to us and said, "Look, I don't care what you guys are doing right now. You need to meet me here at the hospital." And he didn't share with us the detail. So I from the phone call, I thought it was Ice, that wasn't well, and he was reaching out to see us,
right,
and so on. And when I get there, Mixmaster greets me, and I'm like, okay, so he's well, then it's got to be Doc or E. And so as I go up upstairs with him, to the elevator or whatever, we get to the floor, and then I see Doc, and I'm like, oh my God, it's E. And so I walk into the room, and I couldn't recognize this dude, man. He was literally flesh and bone.
Wow. Yeah, that's sad.
That's
man.
rough. That's rough to see.
So after a few minutes of us all being in a room together, and this is the first time in probably 20 years that the four of us are in, sharing the same oxygen and so on. And a few minutes into us being there and talking, he opens his eyes, and he had a tube everywhere, in his nose and his mouth, and so he couldn't speak to us. But when he opened his eyes, like, "Yo, E, the band's back together."
Yeah. I mean, that's great that you guys had one last, little get together.
Yeah, absolutely had that.
It's got to be a source of closure for you.
Yes and no, because I still have the regret of I wish we could have done that when he was healthy enough for us to have a healthy conversation. So there is still a form of, robbery, thievery that's taken place where I feel chipped.
Right.
I wish I could have had that moment where, we could have, shared a handshake and a hug.
Right.
In his position, we couldn't even do that.
Yeah. That's a bummer,
rough.
man.
Yeah, it's rough.
Hey, man, so once again, we've been talking to the Kangol Kid from U.T.F.O. Real quick, let people know how they can catch up with you on social media.
I am on Instagram daily, so follow me at Yo Kangol. That is YOKANGOL. Cats love to forget the L. I have no idea why it's Kangol. I've had so much wins in my life, I am not afraid of an L. So put my L in there and hit me, man. I'm on that daily. So, I'd love to, have my fans or people that we've touched, in the decades reach out, man. I love when they send me a DM of a photo that I may have taken with someone 20, 30 years ago.
Right?
That's always a great feeling, man. So please follow me, Yo Kangol, on Instagram.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So we're going to get into the biggest hit in the world for you guys, Roxanne. Once again, man, thank you so much for taking the time to call in tonight. I'm going to get this file to you early tomorrow morning so you can have it for your archives. And I would love to, if ever possible, to get you back on and talk some more shop.
Let's do it, man. You got me, bro. Hit me on the bat phone.
That's what's up.
There we go. All right. Thank you so much, Kangol. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Thank you.
All right, man. Take care, guys. Continue
Peace.
success.